Tonight, huge bonuses on Wall Street, outrage on Pennsylvania Avenue.
That is the height of irresponsibility.
I'm Katie Couric. Also tonight, he's out. The Illinois Senate removes Rod Blagojevich despite his last-minute plea.
How can you throw a governor out of office who is clamoring and begging and pleading with you to give him a chance?
A CBS News investigation. Soldiers bringing the violence of war home.
I grabbed her, and she bumped her head. Bad.
And there's a lot riding on this horse, carrying not only a jockey, but a legacy.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
And good evening, everyone. In the second week of his presidency, we found out what it takes to get Barack Obama angry. And this is what did. A report that employees of financial companies in New York collected nearly $18.5 billion in bonuses last year, even as the industry was drowning in debt and collecting taxpayer bailouts. The president called it shameful. From the White House, here's Chip Reed.
In the Oval Office today, the president blasted Wall Street bankers for taking billions of dollars in bonuses while pleading for a bailout to keep them afloat.
At a time when most of these institutions were teetering on collapse and they are asking for taxpayers to help sustain them, that is the height of irresponsibility. It is shameful.
The president told advisors the anger rose straight from his gut as he read reports that New York City securities industry employees got more than $18 billion in bonuses in 2008, the sixth highest total on record. It's about the same amount they got in 2004, but then Wall Street was flying high. Now they're getting fat bonuses while millions of Americans are watching their nest eggs evaporate. It's time, the president lectured, for Wall Street to show some discipline.
That they have to start acting in a more responsible fashion if we are to together get this economy rolling again. There will be time for them to make profits, and there will be time for them to get bonuses. Now's not that time.
The president said he plans to talk directly to Wall Street executives, just as Treasury Secretary Timothy Geithner did earlier this week when he stopped Citigroup from taking delivery of a $50 million private jet after the bank got $45 billion in a taxpayer bailout.
We shouldn't have to do that because they should know better.
Late today, New York Attorney General Andrew Cuomo, who has some oversight responsibility over Wall Street, said the president's remarks are a welcome breath of fresh air. He said he looks forward to working with the Obama administration to ensure that Wall Street wakes up to its new responsibilities and abides by a new code of corporate responsibility. White House officials say the president wants nothing less than to redo the way Wall Street does business. That ambitious goal will begin when he issues new regulations governing the financial industry soon. Katie?
Chip Reed at the White House. Thank you, Chip. Let's turn now to our business correspondent, Anthony Mason. And Anthony, can you put these bonuses into some perspective for us?
Yeah, Katie, I can. By Main Street standards, Katie, Wall Streeters are extremely well paid. Some would say overpaid. But the fact is, most of those workers, if they've been able to hold on to a job, have taken huge pay cuts.
Wall Street has already taken a beating. Now the president has hit it again over bonus pay.
They should know better.
But the country's financial sector is already bleeding jobs. 260,000 were cut last year. 1 out of every 10 jobs lost in this recession is in the financial sector. And while it's true that more than $18 billion in bonuses was paid to Wall Street workers in 2008, that plunged nearly 50% from the record $34 billion 2 years ago. The average worker saw a 37% drop in bonus pay last year to $112,000. That's the lowest level in 5 years. What's more, Wall Street uses the term bonus differently.
It's more than likely that the bonuses paid to these financial services people accounts for 50 or 75% of their total compensation, and it's geared to revenue that they brought in or success they brought into the firm. So it's more akin to a sales commission than what you or I would think about as a bonus.
But President Obama's tongue lashing has not fallen on deaf ears.
And part of what we're going to need is for the folks on Wall Street who are asking for help to show some restraint and show some discipline and show some sense of responsibility.
The big banks and brokerages are listening.
Wall Street has internalized the message, the feedback they're getting about bonus structures, and that bonuses will be different next year.
In other words, Katie, Wall Street may have seen the end of an era.
But not nearly as nefarious as it may sound.
No, that's right.
All right, Anthony Mason, thank you, Anthony. A day after the House passed the president's economic package without the support of a single Republican, Republicans in the Senate are signaling Mr. Obama shouldn't expect much GOP support there either. They'll take up the bill next week. Meanwhile, jobs continue to disappear in huge numbers. Eastman Kodak said today it will eliminate as many as 4,500 jobs. Cessna, 2,000. Ford Motor Credit Company, 1,200. And the number of Americans collecting unemployment benefits in this recession has just hit an all-time high of close to 5 million. Sandra Hughes reports state unemployment offices are completely overwhelmed.
After dialing up the California Unemployment Office and hearing this,
we're currently receiving more calls than we can answer. Goodbye.
Brian Holst logged onto his computer to sign up for unemployment benefits.
I'd much rather be told goodbye and be hung up on than wait in a queue for a half hour and not have anybody pick up on me.
California officials admit Holst is not alone in his frustration. It takes on average 20 calls to get through to an operator.
This is ridiculous, I say.
The state is getting swamped by 2.5 million call attempts a day. While 70% of people apply online, those who can only use the phone will pay with their time.
We just have to wait over 2 or 3 hours sometimes just to get that agent on the phone.
To keep up with the crush of calls and applicants, California is adding overtime hours for workers in the evenings and on Saturdays. And it's just as bad across the country.
Good morning. Thank you for calling telephone claims.
Call centers in Nevada are getting 17,000 calls a week, more than 30% above normal.
The first thing that most people say when they call, so you guys are pretty busy, huh? I've been trying to get through for several weeks.
In New Mexico, the governor recently doubled the number of workers taking claims over the phone.
7 days a week, I want that operation open.
In Michigan, where the unemployment rate is now the highest in the nation at 10.6%, a fourth call center was just added.
And believe me, if I've got to go in and answer phones, I'll do it.
The system is so strained, some state unemployment funds are going broke. 7 states are now borrowing from the federal government to pay benefits. The federal government is responding, extending unemployment benefits from 26 to 39 weeks. And if the stimulus package passes, the feds would also pump $500 million into state employment programs. Sandra Hughes, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Back in Washington, a new law makes it easier for workers trying to sue for equal pay. The first bill signed into law by President Obama is the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act. Near the end of a 19-year career, Ledbetter sued for back pay, saying she'd been paid less than her male counterparts as a factory worker at Goodyear Tire. But the Supreme Court ruled against her, saying workers had only 180 days to file a complaint.
I signed this bill for my daughters and all those who will come after us, because I want them to grow up in a nation that values their contributions, where there are no limits to their dreams.
This legislation is an important step forward, particularly at a time when so many families are facing economic insecurity and instability.
By the way, the equal time for Michelle Obama marked her first official comments as First Lady. And one more job loss to report. The Illinois Senate today removed Governor Rod Blagojevich. The vote was 59-0. Blagojevich, only the 8th U.S. governor to be impeached and thrown out, is now banned from ever again holding public office in Illinois. Cynthia Bowers reports on the final showdown.
Watson.
Yes.
The vote was unanimous and came quickly.
I now pronounce the judgment of conviction against Rod R. Blagojevich.
But even knowing his impeachment was all but inevitable, Governor Blagojevich still gave an impassioned defense, arguing impeaching him would violate his rights and strike fear in all 50 governors.
Imagine what future governors in Illinois will face if I'm thrown out of office for this. And imagine other governors in other states.
In the nearly hour-long address, he was by turns defiant.
You haven't proved a crime, and you can't because it hadn't happened.
And deferential.
How can you throw a governor out of office who is clamoring and begging and pleading with you to give him a chance?
To the complaint he exceeded his power by illegally buying cheaper medicine in Canada, he insisted he was not alone.
If you're impeaching me, then the governor of Wisconsin ought to be impeached. The governor of Kansas ought to be impeached. Let's expel John McCain and Ted Kennedy, because I worked with them on this issue. And then let's not stop there. Let's demand that President Obama fire Rahm Emanuel, because Rahm Emanuel is the one who gave me this idea.
To the more serious charges, among them that he tried to sell Barack Obama's Senate seat in return for a job or campaign contributions, the governor pleaded politics.
You guys are in politics. You know what we have to do to go out and run elections.
He did apologize, sort of, for his style.
I'm too impatient, and I get frustrated, and I confess maybe I push too hard. It ain't about me. Charge it to my heart.
But his performance didn't seem to change any minds here.
You don't know whether to get angry or cry.
Immediately after the impeachment, the Senate then voted to ban Blagojevich from ever holding state office again. Then it was time to swear Lieutenant Governor Pat Quinn in as the state's 41st governor. Katie?
Cynthia Bowers in Chicago. Thank you, Cynthia. Coming up next, protecting women from their military husbands or boyfriends. Is the Army doing enough? A CBS News investigation. The United States has now been fighting 2 wars for nearly 8 years, and the strain on servicemen and women is enormous. The Army reported today that at least 128 soldiers took their lives last year alone, the most since they began keeping records 3 decades ago. But sometimes soldiers direct their anger at others. Cases of assault against wives and girlfriends are on the rise, and critics say the Army isn't doing enough about it. As you're about to see in the CBS News investigation, the results can be tragic. Sergeant James Pitts was a decorated soldier, part of the early ground offensive that stormed Baghdad. He had spent a year serving with a combat engineer group providing Army operational support. It wasn't long before the horrors of war became his daily reality.
The only thing you could predict is you were going to get attacked. The worst part about it is smelling dead bodies, because it lingers forever.
The terrifying images began to take a toll.
Mortars, you hear the tail, and that's it.
Pitt started abusing prescription drugs as a way to escape and reached out to his command for help. He says they did nothing. When it was time to come home, he hoped the joy of seeing his wife and 9-year-old son would make everything better.
Just overwhelmed, excited, and relieved.
But the excitement and relief didn't last. He was drinking heavily, experiencing flashbacks, having nightmares.
I can't sleep. I can't get the war out of my head. I got my wife saying she doesn't love me anymore. I got no one in the military I can trust.
Family members say despite some obvious problems, no one in the Army required, even encouraged, he get psychological help. According to this police report obtained by CBS News, Pitts was increasingly agitated and had threatened to put a bullet through his wife's head. Afraid for her life, Tara Pitts obtained a restraining order and notified his command, who promised to help. But that help never came. A week later, Pitts murdered his wife, drowning her in a bathtub. They'd had a fight, and her screams, he says, set him off.
And it reminded me of those screams of fear with the mortars and stuff. I grabbed her, and she bumped her head. Bad. And when I looked down, she was under the water.
He was sentenced to 20 years without parole. Pitts feels betrayed by an Army that once applauded his bravery.
Not guilty. Not only did they turn their back on me, not only did they talk me out of counseling 4 times, but then they flew in from other units to testify against me.
Lynn McCollum is the Army Director of Family Affairs. Doesn't it make you angry to hear these stories about wives who are being killed by soldiers who are actually calling out for help?
There's a tremendous amount of effort going into providing that safety network and assistance for those folks. And it's very frustrating and disturbing when we don't reach everyone.
The numbers are alarming. Over the last decade, there have been nearly 90 domestic homicides and 25,000 substantiated cases of domestic violence at U.S. military installations. When we looked at the small town of Killeen, Texas, home of Fort Hood, we found another disturbing trend. Of the 2,500 domestic violence cases reported to police last year, half of them involved military personnel. The Army has developed a battle mind training program to help soldiers transition back into life at home. Most agree that all the systems and services the military may offer are only as effective as the people willing to use them. Only then will double tragedies like the case of James and Tara Pitts be prevented.
This war took my family from me. I've lost everything. Everything that I thought I was. Everything that I had lived for a decade, gone, everything.
If you'd like more information to help traumatized soldiers or any victims of domestic violence, you can go to cbsnews.com and click on Evening News for a list of resources. We'll be right back. It may sound like a cheap spy novel, but federal prosecutors insist it really happened. A former CIA agent convicted of spying for the Russians is accused of conspiring with them again, even as he sat in prison, and dispatching his son to collect his payoffs. Here's Bob Orr.
When he pleaded guilty in 1997 to selling secrets to the Russians, Harold James Nicholson was the highest-ranking CIA official ever convicted of espionage. He was sentenced to 23 years in prison. But now the government says that did not end Nicholson's covert dealings with Russian agents. Nicholson and his son, Nathaniel James Nicholson, were charged today with 7 counts of conspiracy, money laundering, and acting as agents for a foreign government in an ongoing scheme the elder Nicholson directed from behind prison walls. An indictment unsealed today alleges that Nicholson and his son met numerous times between 2006 and 2008 inside the Federal Correctional Institution in Sheridan, Oregon. From there, the younger Nicholson was dispatched to multiple liaisons with Russian agents in San Francisco, Mexico City, Lima, Peru, and Cyprus, where he collected more than $35,000. The government claims the money, payments for the father's past spying, was then spread around to Nicholson family members. Court documents say the son and his Russian contacts used simple email codes to arrange their meetings. One of them, for example, read, "It looks like I will still be able to go on that vacation." The government believes the Russians continued the meetings to gain information about the 1996 arrest of the elder Nicholson, shown in the back of this police car. Sources say it doesn't appear that any new sensitive information was actually passed along. Still, the new charges mean the Nicholsons, father and son, could now each face up to 100 years in prison if convicted. Bob Orr, CBS News, Washington.
And up next, introducing Barbaro's little brother. It's not easy being a little brother, even if it means following in your big brother's footsteps. Today marks 2 years since Barbaro lost his inspiring fight for life, and now Kelly Coviella reports fans have a new reason to cheer.
His name is Nicanor, a 3-year-old who has yet to run a single race and still has the entire horse world whispering. It's in his genes.
And it is all Barbaro!
Nicanor is the first full brother of Barbaro, the horse who stormed his way to victory in the Kentucky Derby.
Barbaro wins by 7.
Then 2 weeks later,
An astonishing development here!
Shattered his leg, along with the hearts of race fans everywhere. His 8-month struggle to live captivated the world. It's hard to ignore the parallels. Nicanor has Barbaro's build, his trainer, his old stall, even his love of the camera.
I hope lightning can strike twice, but if it doesn't, I understand that he was a pretty good horse, Barbaro, and I don't know if there's one that's as good as he is.
All the world will find out this weekend on the same track where Barbaro marked his first win.
I just really pray for a safe race. I really do. And secondly, that we win by 15 lengths.
But the legacy of Barbaro goes well beyond his blood relations like Nicanor. It even goes beyond the track itself. Charlie Wallen knew nothing about horses before Barbaro.
I think his strength, his courage, his fortitude just gave you hope and inspiration for everything in your life.
Today, she's part of a passionate online community of 3,500 FOBs, or fans of Barbaro. But their true obsession are horses like this, animals whose working days are done. Instead of going to slaughter, the FOBs help get them to rescue groups like this one in Florida.
In the name of Barbaro, there have been thousands and thousands of horses saved.
So this weekend at his baby brother's debut, they'll be cheering for Nicanor and thinking of Barbaro.
You know, you always dream that you could have another Barbaro. I was lucky enough to have one. Two would be, I think, a little greedy, but you always hope for the best.
If this dream doesn't come true, there's another little brother, Lentinor, already kicking up his heels. Kelly Kobiella, CBS News, Hallandale, Florida.
And that's the CBS Evening News. I'm Katie Couric. Thank you for watching. Good night.